The 1% Edge, Beyond Common Advice. Introduction. You have undoubtedly consumed a deluge of articles, a torrent of YouTube tutorials, and perhaps even a formidable stack of books, each purporting to hold the arcane secret to unlocking your latent potential. You've likely been exhorted to rise with the sun at 4 a.m., to immerse yourself in meditation, to meticulously architect your days, to surgically excise all distractions, and to fully embrace the asceticism of monk mode. You have been sold the seductive notion that extraordinary achievement is merely a function of applying sufficient discipline and adhering to a universally lauded constellation of hacks. We are ceaselessly inundated with advice that, on its surface, possesses an appealing logic, advice that the collective seems to embrace with fervent unanimity. It is the kind of counsel that promises to elevate you, to render you more organized, more productive. And indeed, for many, it may precipitate modest improvements, a life marginally more ordered, perhaps a marginal accretion of wealth. But for those who truly transcend, for the architects of empires, the disruptors of industries, the sculptors of enduring legacies, this ubiquitous counsel amounts to little more than ambient noise. It is the prescribed route for the 99%, and it will inevitably deposit you precisely where the 99% ultimately reside. If your aspiration is to ascend to the apex, to inhabit that rarefied stratum that achieves outcomes mere mortals can only fantasize about, you must resolutely cease heeding the clamor of the crowd. The unvarnished truth is that the path to the 1% is not paved with identical routines and shared platitudes. It is a trajectory forged by a distinct mode of cognition, a singular brand of courage, and an uncommon depth of insight. The chasm separating the quotidian from the exceptional is not bridged by merely amplifying the actions of the multitude. It is bridged by undertaking something fundamentally divergent, something that eludes the imaginative grasp of most. This is the very nexus where the concept of contrarian success emerges. It is not an exercise in gratuitous rebellion, nor an endorsement of mere eccentricity. It represents a profoundly specific and potent methodology for attaining results that propel you into the uppermost percentile of your domain. But how, precisely, does it function? Its genesis lies in the identification of a genuinely contrarian idea. This entails discerning a belief, a stratagem, or an opportunity that stands in stark opposition to prevailing popular sentiment or expectation. It is about perceiving a challenge or a market through a lens inverted from the conventional viewpoint. Consider this. If the throng is stampeding towards acquisition, the contrarian may perceive an imperative to divest. If the consensus dictates the demise of a particular industry, the contrarian might discern a colossal opportunity. Yet, the possession of a divergent idea is insufficient. The true alchemy, the authentic edge enjoyed by the 1%, arises from being correct in one's contrarian conviction. This, unequivocally, is the most arduous phase. The vast majority of contrarian notions are, in fact, erroneous. They are rightly dismissed by the masses for compelling reasons. The formidable challenge, the rare aptitude, lies in identifying that contrarian idea which is not merely distinct, but profoundly accurate. This demands perspicacious insight, an unyielding willingness to scrutinize all assumptions, and the fortitude to stand in solitary conviction. Once a contrarian idea has been unearthed and, critically, once you possess a high degree of certainty regarding its veracity, the stage is set for execution, and this is no ordinary execution. It is the implementation of that specific, validated, contrarian idea on an immense scale. It is about marshalling your full resources behind that singular insight with the requisite force to transmute it into tangible reality. While execution is undeniably pivotal, it is the inherent correctness of the contrarian idea itself that serves as the true engine of extraordinary outcomes. I acknowledge that this proposition may strike you as daunting, perhaps even unsettling. I have personally traversed this terrain. I once meticulously constructed a 6-figure enterprise while habitually sleeping late, sustained by a potent regimen of caffeine and sugar, dedicating years to working from the very confines of my bed. This was not a superficial hack. It was the direct consequence of an alternative paradigm, one that flagrantly defied that evangelism of every productivity guru. It entailed confronting pervasive skepticism from friends and family, and frequently experiencing the sensation of battling an inexorable current. Yet, it was anchored in a contrarian conviction regarding my optimal operational modalities and the true wellsprings of my motivation. A conviction that, for me, ultimately proved to be sound. The odyssey of the 1% is seldom characterized by ease or widespread acclaim. It necessitates a profound willingness to be misunderstood, to confront doubt, and to place unwavering trust in your own judgment, when the chorus of external opinion insists you are mistaken. But the reward transcends mere financial accumulation. It lies in the profound fulfillment of forging something unique, of exerting a significant influence, and of cultivating a life that is authentically your own, rather than one dictated by the expectations of others. By clinging to the well-trodden paths, you risk perpetual entrapment within the 99%, forever languishing in frustration at the gulf between your potential and your lived reality. This book is your compass, guiding you away from that conventional route. We shall embark on an exploration of how to discern those overlooked opportunities, how to rigorously ascertain the validity of your unconventional hypotheses, and how to cultivate the unshakable resolve required to execute them on a grand scale. We will delve into the minds of those who have mastered this art and equip you with the indispensable tools to forge your own contrarian advantage. In the ensuing chapters, we shall meticulously dissect the very architecture of contrarian thinking, illuminate the psychological impediments that dissuade the majority from embracing it, and furnish actionable frameworks for its identification, validation, and execution. We will examine historical titans and contemporary innovators who embody this principle, and we will empower you with the requisite instruments to ascend to their ranks. The 1% edge is not a clandestine formula, it is a fundamental paradigm shift. It is the courage to embrace the possibility of error, the wisdom to recognize truth, and the audacity to act upon it. Are you prepared to construct yours? Chapter 1. Understanding Exceptional Success. 1. What makes success complex? You've likely heard the refrain 1,000 times. Just be disciplined. Set clear goals. Wake at dawn and down a glass of emerald juice. It's the same threadbare script endlessly recited by charlatans and influencers who have never, in fact, achieved anything remotely remarkable. They peddle a fantasy of effortless steps, a predictable ascent to the summit. And it is a fabrication. A comforting, easily digestible fabrication, but a fabrication nonetheless. The stark reality is that exceptional achievement, the kind that elevates you to the rarefied air of the top 1%, not merely the top 10%, is anything but simple. It is a tangled, intricate affair, often forged from elements that most individuals shrink from even contemplating. The conventional wisdom you encounter, the platitudes plastered everywhere, they are calibrated for the 99%. They champion conformity, the act of treading the same path as the multitude, perhaps with a touch more vigor or a few extra moments of wakefulness. And consider this: if such advice were universally effective, the world would be awash in titans of industry and paradigm-shifting innovators. Yet, you observe individuals toiling relentlessly, employing every conceivable productivity stratagem, and remaining stubbornly mired in their present circumstances. Because their focus is fixed on the mechanism without grasping the essence, they are meticulously polishing the engine of a vehicle misdirected. The true alchemy, the genuine impetus for outlier results, resides not in the ceaseless pursuit of discipline or the flawless architecture of goal-setting systems. It resides in the genesis of the idea itself. Herein lies the true labyrinth, the point where most falter. Extraordinary success does not spring from the execution of commonplace notions with uncommon effort. It arises from the discernment of a genuinely contrarian concept, and then, critically, the accuracy of that concept. This is not about mere divergence for its own sake. It is about perceiving what others overlook, a perspective that defies prevailing beliefs or expectations, and possessing the prescience to recognize that as the viable trajectory. This foundational concept, this contrarian spark, is the bedrock. The execution, the discipline, the goals. These are subsidiary. They are the instruments by which one constructs upon a foundation that is already singular and potent. So, what imbues success with such intricacy? It commences with the seductive illusion of simplicity that common counsel perpetuates. It is akin to being instructed to erect a skyscraper by merely stacking bricks with haste. Undoubtedly, you are performing the action, but you are omitting the architectural plans, the engineering acumen, the comprehension of physical laws. The prevailing advice fixates on the bricks, the discipline, the task lists, the early risings. It is accessible, readily understood, and fosters a sensation of productive endeavor. Yet, it fails to account for the reality that the most consequential decisions, those that truly bifurcate the 1% from the 99%, are often sparse, unconventional, and profoundly sound. These are not the pronouncements found within generic self-help literature. The authentic engine of extraordinary success, the element that truly propels an individual into the upper echelon, is the caliber and originality of the underlying concept. It is about possessing an insight that the vast majority either miss or dismiss. And this concept must not merely be novel, it must be accurate. It must possess the capacity to reliably forecast or shape a future reality. This accuracy is the bedrock. Absent it, even the most brilliant execution will lead to futility. It is the chasm separating a revolutionary invention from a spectacular misfire. This is the crux of what we term contrarian success. It is the attainment of outcomes that position you within the apex 1% of your domain, not by trailing the herd, but by identifying and acting upon concepts that diverge from the prevailing or anticipated perspective. It necessitates a predisposition for singularity, an embrace of skepticism, and an understanding that the most impactful decisions are frequently those that evoke the sensation of swimming against the prevailing current. The complexity here is profound, given the astronomical failure rate associated with contrarian concepts. Most individuals cannot even conceive of them, and far fewer can embrace them, particularly when surrounded by dissenting voices. Let us address a specific query that perpetuates stagnation. Which widely endorsed success hacks demonstrably fall short of yielding 1% outcomes, and why, according to the book's central tenet, are they insufficient? Consider goal setting, for instance. Establishing a target to augment your income by 10% within a year is an entirely appropriate objective for the 99%. It is attainable, quantifiable, and aligns with conventional professional trajectories. But for the 1%? It is but a ripple in an ocean. Those who achieve truly extraordinary wealth or influence do not set goals to accrue marginal gains. They establish objectives that fundamentally reconfigure industries or forge entirely new markets. Their aspirations are so audacious, so far removed from the norm, that they often sound like fantasy to the average individual. The inadequacy of conventional goal setting for 1% success lies in its inherent conservatism. It is designed to temper expectations and achieve incremental improvements, not to catalyze radical breakthroughs. The book's thesis posits that the idea underpinning the goal is paramount. A goal to increase sales by 10% is propelled by the concept of incremental enhancement. A goal to invent a novel means of global communication is driven by a contrarian concept regarding connection and technology, and it is this idea that truly fuels 1% results. Then there is discipline. It is a ubiquitous topic. Be disciplined. Be consistent. Be relentless. And indeed, discipline is requisite for execution. But what if the object of your discipline is fundamentally flawed? What if you are relentlessly pursuing a business model that has become obsolete, or a strategy that the market has already superseded? Discipline in such a context evolves into a tool for self-annihilation, a method for excavating your own demise with heightened efficiency. The common advice suggests that discipline begets success. The 1% advantage proposes that genuine success originates from a correct contrarian concept, and discipline merely serves as the energy to actualize that concept. The complexity arises because most individuals apply discipline to misaligned pursuits due to a deficit of contrarian insight to identify what truly matters. They are disciplined about chasing trends rather than originating them. Productivity hacks represent another classic example. Time blocking, inbox zero, the Pomodoro technique. These are undoubtedly valuable instruments. They can facilitate the completion of more tasks within a given day. However, they, too, concentrate on the mechanics of doing rather than the substance of what is being done. One could be the most productive individual on the planet, executing 1,000 tasks daily, but if those tasks are all devoid of meaning or predicated on a flawed premise, they are merely occupied. They are not constructing anything extraordinary. The 1% advantage stems from the identification of the singular contrarian concept that, upon execution, yields disproportionate returns. This might necessitate devoting less time to doing and more time to contemplation, research, or validation of that one critical, unconventional idea. The complexity lies in the ease with which hacks are adopted. The insight, conversely, is exceedingly difficult to unearth. The fundamental paradox of the correct contrarian is what renders this path so arduous and so rare. The route to exceptional success is seldom a well-trodden highway. It is a meandering, frequently solitary, track that diverges from the collective. This divergence demands a willingness to err, to confront skepticism, and to steadfastly uphold a conviction that others do not share. The complexity resides in the elevated failure rate of contrarian concepts and the immense challenge of being correctly contrarian. Most individuals exhibit risk aversion. They favor the solace of the known, the security of popular opinion. To stand alone, to champion an idea that the majority dismisses, requires a degree of conviction and fortitude that is uncommon. And even then, being contrarian does not guarantee success. One can be contrarian and be utterly, spectacularly mistaken. The true challenge, the genuine 1% advantage, is to be contrarian and to be correct. This demands not merely a bold concept, but a profound understanding of underlying dynamics, a rigorous validation process, and an almost prescient capacity to perceive what others cannot. This leads us to another stratum of complexity. Success does not fundamentally alter one's core identity, it amplifies it. The perceived messiness or unconventional habits of successful individuals often mirror their intrinsic disposition and the exigencies of their unique journey rather than being the catalyst for their success. If someone is inherently disorganized, extreme success might exacerbate this trait, but it will not magically instill order. If they are innately curious and driven by a deep-seated need for comprehension, success will magnify that curiosity, propelling them toward even more intricate and unconventional explorations. This amplification signifies that the internal landscape of the individual is as intricate and pivotal as the external strategy. It explains why merely emulating the habits of a successful person often proves futile. You are replicating outward actions without comprehending the internal drivers or the unique circumstances that rendered those actions effective. The complexity lies in recognizing that the how of success is intrinsically interwoven with the who of the individual, and that the 1% advantage frequently arises from leveraging, rather than suppressing, these singular internal attributes. Finally, let us address the social and emotional toll of deviation. The pursuit of a truly exceptional, contrarian path frequently precipitates social isolation, misunderstanding, and a forfeiture of conventional validation. When one departs from the well-trodden path, the social safety net of shared comprehension and approval can fray. Friends may not comprehend. Family may harbor concerns. Colleagues may resent your divergent approach. This complexity introduces a substantial psychological impediment that common advice rarely acknowledges or prepares individuals for. The enjoyment and messiness of the actual world of outlier success are often intertwined with these personal sacrifices. You may be lauded for your accomplishments, but the journey toward them is frequently solitary. The perpetual necessity to justify your unconventional choices, to defend your vision against doubt, and to navigate a world that favors conformity exacts a toll. This emotional and social complexity constitutes a critical component of what renders 1% success so elusive and so challenging to sustain. It transcends mere market dynamics or strategic considerations. It pertains to the individual's capacity to withstand the pressure of distinctiveness. So, what is the ultimate insight derived from all this complexity? It is that exceptional success is not a simplistic equation. It is not about discovering the opportune hack or the perfect regimen. It is about comprehending that the terrain of outlier achievement is inherently intricate. It necessitates a willingness to confront unconventional concepts, to be rigorously accurate concerning them, and to execute them with profound dedication. Common advice offers a comforting illusion of simplicity, but the genuine advantage, the 1% edge, resides in embracing and navigating the intricate, often counterintuitive, reality of truly extraordinary accomplishment. Recognizing that complexity is not an obstacle to be surmounted, but the very landscape upon which exceptional success is built, is the initial stride. The subsequent step involves dissecting how one navigates this terrain, transcending the superficial to embrace the strategic. 2. The role of unique ideas. Most individuals, blessedly conventional, find solace in well-trodden paths. They consume the same narratives, absorb the same audio streams, and echo the same time-worn counsel on discipline, aspiration, and the asceticism of pre-dawn awakenings. And their reward? Mediocrity. They attain competent outcomes, perhaps even laudable ones. But the truly exceptional, the kind that arrests attention, the kind that redefines entire sectors, the kind that secures a place among the elite 1%? That is a wholly different arena. And it is an arena where conventional wisdom simply does not play. The genuine divergence, the profound gulf that separates the truly remarkable from the merely capable, resides not in the intensity of one's labor nor the exhaustive conquest of one's to-do lists. It is found in the genesis of the idea itself. Ponder this: if every participant adheres to the identical script, following the same established playbook, how can any individual possibly distinguish themselves? You become merely another component in an immense, unremarkable edifice. The decisive 1% advantage, the kind that truly matters, is forged upon a bedrock of concepts that the majority either cannot perceive, will not entertain, or actively repudiate. This is the very essence of what I term contrarian success. It is not an embrace of perversity or deliberate obscurity. Rather, it is the recognition of truths that lie concealed in plain sight, truths that the collective intellect has somehow managed to overlook. Herein lies the true leverage. Envision the endeavor of moving a colossal stone. If you join the throng, adding your meager force to a monumental exertion, the stone shifts with glacial slowness. But what if you could devise a means to employ a lever, or uncover a concealed incline? Suddenly, a comparatively modest effort can yield a titanic outcome. That lever, that incline, that is your singular, contrarian insight. It empowers you to achieve disproportionately vast results with an exertion that, while still substantial, is fundamentally distinct and demonstrably more efficacious than the orthodox approach. Consider the trajectory of Steve Jobs. In his initial conception of the personal computer, the notion that such a device could be both accessible and beneficial to the average individual was bordering on the ludicrous. Computers were behemoths, intricate and confined to laboratories and corporate fortresses. The prevailing dogma dictated that this was the immutable nature of such machines. Jobs did not merely aspire to engineer a superior computer. His vision was far more radical. What if computers transcended the domain of experts? What if they possessed an innate intuitiveness, an aesthetic grace, and a desirability that resonated with everyone? This was a contrarian postulate. It defied the established understanding and application of technology. And because his vision was not only unconventional but also prescient, he did not merely establish a prosperous enterprise, he fundamentally reshaped the global landscape. Or contemplate Elon Musk and the pursuit of reusable rockets. For decades, the established aerospace industry operated under the immutable principle that rockets were disposable. They were constructed, launched, and their operational life concluded. The expense was astronomical, yet it was the accepted cost of doing business. Musk observed this paradigm and declared, "This is preposterous. We ought to be able to utilize rockets as we do aircraft. This was a radical, contrarian proposition. The experts derided it. It was deemed prohibitively expensive, exceedingly complex, and, in essence, too different. Yet Musk perceived a fundamental truth that eluded others. The economic viability of space exploration was irrevocably compromised if rockets were treated as expendable. His unwavering conviction, his absolute faith in the validity of this contrarian concept, compelled him to channel immense resources and unyielding effort into its realization. Today, SpaceX stands as a dominant force, and the entire industry is engaged in a frantic effort to adapt. These are not isolated anomalies. Every truly transformative innovation, every seismic upheaval in commerce or culture, originated from an idea that defied the prevailing current. The inaugural proponent of a portable device capable of connecting individuals to the entirety of the global network? Contrarian. The first to suggest the procurement of virtually any commodity online, delivered directly to one's doorstep? Contrarian. The initial individual to posit that an enterprise could flourish by offering a service that appeared too advantageous, too economical, or too specialized to ever achieve viability. You have surmised correctly, contrarian. The crux of the matter is not mere deviation for its own sake. That is simply eccentricity. The critical determinant, the element that distinguishes the visionary from the crackpot, is the veracity of the concept. Any individual can harbor a whimsical, unpopular notion. The genius, the 1% thinker, is the one whose outlandish, uncelebrated idea proves to be profoundly accurate. This is the most formidable hurdle, and it is where the majority falter. They may glimpse a nascent, unconventional thought, but they lack the resolve, the foresight, or the rigorous intellectual discipline to ascertain whether it represents a hidden gem or mere ignis fatuus. Consider the staggering annual attrition rate of nascent enterprises. A significant proportion are founded upon concepts that are, in some manner, contrarian. They aim to disrupt established industries, introduce novel methodologies, or cater to underserved markets. Yet, the overwhelming majority fail to endure. The reason? Because the concept, while perhaps distinct, was not fundamentally sound. It may have been premature, belated, predicated on a flawed understanding of human psychology, or simply unfeasible in the practical realm. The commercial landscape is replete with the specters of contrarian notions that were demonstrably erroneous. This is precisely why the ubiquitous advice to simply believe in yourself is so maddeningly insufficient. Self-belief is undoubtedly a valuable attribute. However, if it is anchored to a fundamentally flawed concept, all that conviction will achieve is a headlong collision with an insurmountable obstacle. The genuine challenge lies in cultivating the capacity to discern which contrarian ideas possess the potential to be not merely different but correct. It involves fostering a sharp, analytical intellect capable of penetrating the cacophony of conventional thought and identifying the underlying verities that others overlook. How does one embark upon such a pursuit? It commences with an insatiable curiosity and an unyielding willingness to scrutinize all assumptions. Do not accept propositions merely because they have been conventionally upheld. Inquire relentlessly, why? Examine the foundational premises of established practices. What if those premises are erroneous? What if a superior methodology exists that has remained unexplored due to its perceived difficulty or unconventionality? This necessitates a profound immersion into the fundamental mechanics of one's chosen domain, transcending superficial strategies. It entails grasping the root causes, the inherent needs, and the potential trajectories, rather than merely the current state. For instance, within the software industry, conventional wisdom might advocate for an emphasis on features, marketing, and customer acquisition, all valid pursuits. However, a contrarian might pose the question, what if the entire paradigm of human software interaction is inherently inefficient? What if we could engineer a solution requiring virtually no learning curve, one that anticipates user needs before they are even articulated? This caliber of ideation does not stem from perusing marketing literature, it arises from a profound, critical examination of the user experience and a resolute willingness to challenge fundamental design principles. The process of identifying a truly sound contrarian concept is seldom a sudden epiphany. It is more often a gradual evolution, a synthesis of observation, analysis, and refinement. It involves perceiving the world through an alternative lens, one unclouded by the prevailing opinions and ingrained biases of the majority. It demands an embrace of uncertainty, an acceptance of the possibility of error, and the acknowledgement that one will frequently be navigating against the prevailing tide. Consider the narrative of Netflix. When Blockbuster reigned supreme in the realm of video rentals, the concept of dispatching DVDs to customers' residences was, frankly, rather peculiar. And subsequently, the idea of instantaneously streaming those films? That bordered on the realm of science fiction. The prevailing belief was that individuals preferred the tangible experience of visiting a store, perusing physical shelves, and obtaining immediate possession of a film. Reed Hastings and the nascent Netflix team perceived a different future. They recognized the potential for unparalleled convenience, an expansive selection unburdened by physical constraints, and a technological paradigm shift that would ultimately render physical retail obsolete. They were contrarian, and crucially, they were accurate in their assessment of the trajectory of both technology and consumer behavior. The inherent power of a singular idea is its capacity to generate its own gravitational pull. Once a truly novel and valid concept is established, the effort invested in its realization is exponentially magnified. You are not merely competing, you are inaugurating a new category. You are not simply enhancing, you are revolutionizing. This is why execution, while indispensable, assumes a subordinate role to the conceptual genesis. A brilliant, contrarian idea, even if imperfectly realized, can still achieve monumental success. Conversely, a pedestrian concept, executed with flawless precision and immense effort, will invariably yield only pedestrian outcomes. It is akin to engaging in a race with a bicycle against a Formula One vehicle. Regardless of the vigor of your pedaling, victory remains unattainable. Therefore, how does one cultivate the faculty for identifying truly unique and sound ideas? It begins with a conscious detachment from herd mentality. Cease seeking external validation. The majority will invariably counsel caution, adherence to convention, and reliance on established precedents. This is not the path to 1% success. Instead, cultivate an internal compass. Develop a profound comprehension of the fundamental principles governing your chosen field. Seek out inefficiencies, unmet needs, and assumptions that have lost their validity. And when a potential concept emerges, subject it to rigorous scrutiny, not by soliciting opinions, but by actively seeking empirical evidence. Can data substantiate your premise? Can a small, low-cost experiment be devised to validate its feasibility? The journey of the contrarian is seldom an effortless one. It is frequently accompanied by skepticism, doubt, and even derision. You will be informed that you are mistaken. You will be told that your endeavor is impossible. You will witness others, adhering to conventional wisdom, achieving steady, predictable, yet ultimately unremarkable results. But if you can master the art of discerning a truly unique idea, and more importantly, if you can develop the foresight to accurately assess its potential, then you have unlocked the most potent engine for achieving extraordinary success. Common advice engenders common outcomes. The contrarian idea, when validated, leads to exceptional ones. It is the concept that elevates you, the concept that bestows the 1% advantage. 3. Challenging common beliefs. We are perpetually immersed in a deluge of advice. It cascades from every quarter: social media feeds, printed pages, the counsel of friends and family, even the pronouncements of strangers. Most of it on the surface seems laudable, does it not? Rise with the dawn. Cultivate unwavering discipline. Aspire to monumental goals. Embrace daily meditation. These pronouncements conjure the very image of success, do they not? This is the cacophony of the 99%, the symphony of the masses. And if the majority are engaged in these practices, how could they possibly represent the secret elixir for the top 1%? They cannot. This is the snare of the 99%. Consider this. If a piece of advice, a shortcut, a strategy is being disseminated by millions echoed in countless self-help volumes and emblazoned across the digital canvases of every productivity pundit, its inherent advantage has already evaporated. It has become commonplace. And common things invariably yield common results. If every individual is awakening at 5 a.m., then the act of waking at 5 a.m. offers no distinct benefit. It merely situates you within the throng of early risers. It does not, by itself, confer brilliance, extraordinary success, or the capacity to reshape industries. It simply induces a different form of weariness. Those who achieve truly remarkable feats, those who redefine entire sectors and leave an indelible mark upon the world, did not arrive there by conforming to the prevailing current. They arrived by charting a divergent course, by perceiving the world through a prism that most either cannot, or will, not adopt. They unearthed an advantage not by amplifying their efforts in alignment with the masses, but by undertaking something fundamentally distinct, and crucially, by being demonstrably correct in their conviction. This observation leads us to a pivotal realization, the pervasive illusion of execution eclipsing insight. So much of the guidance we absorb is fixated on the act of doing. Exert yourself more. Enhance your productivity. Persist relentlessly. We are admonished that unwavering, flawless execution, a day-in day-out grind, will inevitably culminate in success. And indeed, execution is indispensable. A brilliant concept, devoid of action, is utterly worthless. Yet, here lies the unvarnished truth. For the caliber of success that elevates one to the upper echelon of the top 1%, execution alone is not the driving force. The true engine, the genuine differentiator, resides in the idea itself. More precisely, it is the rectitude of that idea. Reflect upon an individual like Warren Buffett. His extraordinary achievements were not forged through a 4 a.m. awakening followed by a vigorous pre-breakfast calisthenics regimen. His immense fortune and influence stemmed from a select constellation of profoundly insightful, contrarian investment judgments. He discerned value where others perceived only risk, or indeed, perceived nothing at all. His comprehension of businesses and markets diverged from prevailing orthodoxies, and because his assessments were so remarkably accurate, those few, unconventional insights propelled him to pinnacles that remain the stuff of dreams for most. It was not a matter of perfecting daily routines. It was the consequence of a handful of monumental, correct perceptions. Popular advice frequently directs our attention toward micro-habits, the minute adjustments to our daily routines. However, for outlier success, the focus must be on the macro level, the foundational idea, the core insight, the strategic wager, that the majority are too apprehensive, too conventional, or too myopic to even contemplate. The psychological toll of pursuing these unconventional trajectories is profound. Society, by its very nature, champions conformity. From our earliest years, we are conditioned to blend in, to adhere to established protocols, to avoid disrupting the equilibrium. Deviation is frequently met with suspicion, derision, or outright social exclusion. Consider the sheer fortitude required to stand firm and declare, "I hold that X is true," while the prevailing sentiment is Y, yet I shall stake my future upon X. This is the crucible of contrarian success. It transcends the mere possession of a divergent idea. It necessitates an idea that defies convention, that is unpopular, and, subsequently, the unshakable conviction to champion it, even when the entire world appears to be proclaiming your error. Permit me to illustrate. Envision a nascent entrepreneur, whom we shall name Anya. Anya conceives of a groundbreaking social platform. The prevailing wisdom of the epoch, the collective consciousness, advocates for the accrual of vast user bases through viral mechanisms, and an unending array of engagement features. The singular pursuit is for attention. Yet, Anya perceives a different reality. She posits that individuals are being inundated by superficial interactions and yearn for something more profound, more deliberately curated. Her contrarian thesis is to construct a platform that intentionally constrains the number of connections, prioritizing instead deep, qualitative exchanges, even at the expense of accelerated expansion. Her contemporaries scoff. You are misguided, Anya. You stand no chance against the titans. People desire augmentation, not diminution. Investors exhibit reticence. This runs counter to every principle of user acquisition we understand. Your own family harbors apprehension. Why can you not devise something that functions akin to everyone else's? You are jeopardizing your future. The pressure to conform is immense. The path of least resistance would be to abandon her vision, to espouse the more popular, validated model. She would then be emulating the masses, adhering to the common narrative. She would be secure, accepted, a participant in the 99%. But Anya does not waver. She believes, with every fiber of her being, that her concept is not merely distinct, but accurate. She apprehends the underlying human imperative that the prevailing discourse overlooks. She comprehends that the engagement sought by so many is frequently superficial, and that genuine value resides in authentic connection. She intensifies her commitment. She labors with unflagging dedication, not solely on implementation, but on refining her core concept, on understanding why it holds true when others deem it erroneous. She confronts rejection, doubt, and isolation. It is an arduous journey. Yet, in time, her platform, founded upon this contrarian tenet of scarcity and quality, begins to gain momentum. Individuals, fatigued by the incessant clamor of alternative platforms, discover solace and genuine connection. Her unconventional notion proves to be not merely different, but profoundly correct. Her triumph is not a consequence of mastering the latest productivity stratagem. It is a testament to the potency of a contrarian idea, championed and actualized when it was unpopular. This encapsulates the very essence of my meaning when I speak of challenging common beliefs. The advice that is most readily accessible, the strategies that are most universally lauded, are precisely those that will anchor you firmly within the middle strata. They are engineered for the multitude, for incremental advancement, for steady, predictable outcomes. They are not designed for the seismic shifts, the industry-defining breakthroughs, the extraordinary achievements that characterize the top 1%. Therefore, what specific, widely disseminated success hack or common piece of counsel proves the most misleading for aspiring outliers, and why does it falter in delivering 99th percentile results? This is a challenging query, as so many are equally deceptive. However, if compelled to select one, it would be the unyielding, almost fanatical, devotion to extreme discipline and hustle culture as the paramount drivers of success. We are instructed to awaken at ungodly hours, to labor for 18-hour stretches, to forfeit sleep, relationships, and sanity in the pursuit of the grind. This is not merely common counsel, it has become a badge of honor for many. Why does it fail outliers? Because it frequently prioritizes activity over discernment. It fosters a frenetic pace that leaves scant room for profound contemplation, for the interrogation of assumptions, for the cultivation of the truly original, contrarian ideas that form the bedrock of exceptional achievement. When one is perpetually engaged in hustling, one is reacting, one is executing what one believes one ought to be doing, often predicated on the actions of others. One is not allocating sufficient time to ponder, is this the correct course of action? Is there an entirely different, superior methodology? Extreme discipline, when misapplied, can devolve into a form of self-imposed myopia. It can compel one to rigidly adhere to a flawed plan simply because one possesses the discipline to execute it. It is the disciplined execution of a mediocre concept, which, in turn, yields only a mediocre outcome. The outlier does not intrinsically require augmented discipline. They necessitate a superior concept, a more accurate perspective, and the courage to pursue it, even if it entails not hustling in the conventional sense. At times, the most potent action is to disengage, to contemplate anew, and to refuse to emulate the actions of the majority, even if it means appearing less disciplined or less engaged in hustling. This leads directly to the second analytical prompt. How does the societal inclination to reward conformity and penalize deviation actively impede the genesis and adoption of genuinely contrarian ideas, and what is the psychological cost incurred by those who persevere? This is a fundamental characteristic of human nature and societal architecture. We are inherently predisposed to belonging. From an evolutionary vantage point, ostracization signified demise. Consequently, we learn to align ourselves with the collective, to embrace its tenets, its behaviors, its norms. This is how societies function, how we achieve collective objectives. Yet, this very mechanism, so vital for our species' survival, becomes the foremost adversary of outlier success. When one proposes an idea that diverges from the established norm, one is, in essence, challenging the group's sense of stability and self-assurance. One is implying that their collective wisdom may be flawed. This is an uncomfortable proposition. It is simpler and more secure to dismiss the dissenter, to categorize them as eccentric, delusional, or simply erroneous. Consider the historical figures who were subjected to ridicule before achieving acclaim. Galileo, who dared to suggest that the Earth orbited the Sun, or the Wright brothers, who harbored the conviction that humans could achieve flight when the prevailing view deemed it fanciful. Their ideas were not merely distinct, they were fundamentally subversive to the established, accepted truth. The psychological toll for those who persist is immense. It is the incessant, gnawing apprehension, what if they are correct and I am mistaken? It is the solitude of standing apart, of having one's vision unvalidated by those in one's immediate sphere. It is the frustration of perceiving opportunities that others overlook, yet being unable to persuade them to join your endeavor. It is the emotional burden of enduring derision, skepticism, and at times, outright hostility. Numerous brilliant ideas perish not due to inherent flaws, but because their originators could not withstand the psychological pressure of being perceived as incorrect by the wider world. They either abandoned their concept or, more detrimentally, compromised it to secure acceptance, thereby sacrificing the very contrarian advantage that could have rendered it exceptional. Those who attain the 1% edge are individuals capable of navigating this psychological minefield. They cultivate a robust internal compass, a profound belief in their own judgment, and an understanding that the approbation of the masses is often an indicator that one is diverging from the correct path if exceptionalism is the objective. They learn to tolerate ambiguity, to embrace doubt as a catalyst for deeper contemplation, and to derive validation not from external applause, but from the quiet certainty that their unconventional idea possesses a more profound truth. They comprehend that being correct about a contrarian idea represents a solitary journey, yet it is the sole avenue to truly outlier outcomes. The common advice, the popular stratagems, the widely accepted truths, these constitute the comfortable, well-illuminated pathways. They are secure, predictable, and lead to predictable, average results. If one aspires to achieve something genuinely exceptional, something that situates them within the rarefied atmosphere of the top 1%, one must be willing to deviate from these paths. One must be prepared to question everything, to challenge the established order, and to embrace the discomfiture of unconventional thought. For the most significant opportunities, the most profound breakthroughs, are rarely discovered where the majority are directing their gaze. They lie hidden in plain sight, awaiting an individual with the fortitude to perceive them differently. If the well-trodden paths of common counsel represent a cul-de-sac for extraordinary accomplishment, then where does one commence the forging of their own unique trajectory? The answer lies not in a more diligent adherence to the collective, but in the deliberate cultivation of a mindset that actively seeks out and validates the overlooked, the unconventional, and the fundamentally divergent. The subsequent step is to comprehend precisely how to identify these rare, potent seeds of contrarian insight. 4. Habits that don't work for everyone. Let us speak plainly. You hold this book because the ceaseless drone of conventional wisdom has wearying you. You have navigated a sea of articles, endured countless videos, all peddling the same worn-out prescriptions: rise at 4, meditate for an hour, imbibe lemon water, chronicle your gratitude, and voila, you will find yourself in the rarefied company of industry titans. A comforting notion, is it not? A placid, predictable ascent to eminence. Except, it is a phantasm. And like most fictions, It is utterly devoid of substance when it comes to forging exceptional success. The stark reality is that the vast preponderance of what is marketed as success advice serves an entirely different purpose. It is designed to preserve the existing order, to foster incremental gains, to sculpt a marginally improved iteration of the average individual. It caters to those who aspire to ascend the existing hierarchy, not to those who intend to erect an entirely new edifice on alien soil. If a practice is universally embraced, readily accessible, and effortlessly replicated, how could it possibly confer an advantage over the legions of others engaged in the identical pursuit? It cannot. It is the antithesis of an advantage. It is a mere token of participation in the grand game of life. Consider this. If the secret to accumulating billions lay solely in early rising, would we not be inundated with a world overflowing with nascent billionaires? The advice proliferates because it is marketable, because it is simplistic, and because it instills in individuals the feeling of productive engagement. Yet, the sensation of productivity and the actual trajectory toward outlier success are two profoundly disparate phenomena. The habits that propel individuals into the uppermost echelon are seldom those paraded across social media. They are frequently untidy, unorthodox, and deeply personal. We have been beguiled by the illusion of a universal blueprint for success, a compendium of virtuous habits that, when diligently observed, will unlock the vault of extraordinary accomplishment. But here lies the unvarnished truth. What proves beneficial for general well-being or moderate achievement can become an insurmountable impediment. When one's sights are set on the firmament, these commonly lauded habits, the rigid adherence to schedules, the relentless cult of hustle, the ceaseless quest for self-optimization, can, in fact, divert attention from the substantive work. My own trajectory serves as a testament to this. While the evangelists of the dawn were expounding their doctrines, I was frequently immersed in the nocturnal hours, sustained by dubious quantities of caffeine and an unwavering fixation on the germinal idea I was pursuing. There were nights I toiled from my bed, enveloped by the comforting disarray I had orchestrated, unconcerned with the pristine order of my workspace or the equilibrium of my meals. My habits would have garnered no accolades for corporate productivity. They were often inefficient, conventionally unhealthy, and certainly not a lifestyle I would ever proffer as a general recommendation. However, they were the very habits that enabled me to channel every iota of my energy into the concept that held paramount importance. The concept that, against formidable odds, I was convinced of its validity. The realization of that concept, through my own idiosyncratic and unconventional methodology, was the genesis of the 1% differential. The habits were ancillary. The concept and its unflagging pursuit were everything. This is the juncture at which we must attain absolute clarity. The objective is not to become a flawlessly calibrated instrument. The objective is to achieve outcomes that position one within the apex percentile of one's domain. And this is not attained by conforming to the prevailing current. It is attained by discerning something genuinely novel, something that eludes the perception or is dismissed by the majority, and then possessing an unassailable correctness in its regard. Once possessed of that rare, accurate, contrarian insight, the method of its execution can be wildly idiosyncratic. The focus shifts from adherence to a prescribed regimen to the singular purpose of bringing that insight to grand fruition. Let us cast our gaze upon history. The luminaries we venerate for their monumental achievements frequently operated far beyond the confines of conventional virtuous habits. Consider Winston Churchill, a man who navigated Britain through its most profound twilight. Do you surmise his success was predicated upon a rigorous 6 o'clock gym regimen and a kale smoothie? Assuredly not. He was notorious for his prodigious consumption of spirits, his erratic sleep patterns, and his general disdain for the orthodox counsel on personal discipline. Yet, his intellect remained incisive, his resolve unyielding, and his contributions incalculable. His brilliance was not impeded by his unconventional habits. In many respects, those habits were integral to the unique milieu that enabled his extraordinary intellect to function and create. Or contemplate Thomas Edison, the prolific inventor. He did not eschew stimulants to sustain his intellectual vigor during those all-night invention sessions. His preoccupation was not with the salubrious mode of operation, but with the outcome. He was impelled by a potent, contrarian vision for the future, and he pursued it with a ferocity that transcended conventional notions of a balanced existence. His genius was not discovered in the adherence to a rigid timetable, but in his unwavering devotion to his ideas, and his relentless drive to manifest them, often through sheer force of will and unorthodox means. These are not endorsements of deleterious lifestyles. They are stark illustrations that the pathway to outlier success is not paved with unimpeachable discipline or conformity to societal dictates of good. The defining attribute of these titans was the correctness of their vision and their unparalleled dedication to actualizing that vision. Their habits were not the engine of their success. They were the occasionally idiosyncratic conveyance that bore them onward. The peril of fixating upon commonplace habits lies in its potential to devolve into a form of procrastination. It offers a means of appearing occupied and productive without actually engaging in the arduous, discomforting labor of cultivating a truly distinctive idea. You dedicate hours to perfecting your morning ritual, agonizing over the selection of a productivity application, or meticulously dissecting your day into minute increments. All the while, the genuine opportunity, the chance to perceive a void in the marketplace, to challenge and entrench norm, to conceive of something radically divergent, slips inexorably through your grasp. The advantage you seek resides not in optimizing your inbox. It resides within your mind, in your capacity to perceive what others overlook, and to believe in it with sufficient fervor to render it tangible. When your focus is directed toward the concept, its originality, its potential correctness, and the means of its large-scale execution, the specific habits you adopt recede into the background. They transform into instruments, not arbiters. They are shaped by the imperatives of the concept, not dictated by a generic self-help compendium. Therefore, what distinguishes habits that foster general success from those indispensable for exceptional, outlier success? Habits of general success pertain to optimization within an established framework. They aim to render you more efficient, more dependable, and more at ease within the societal commonalities. They are about becoming a more refined component of the existing apparatus. Habits of exceptional success, conversely, are about dismantling the apparatus and constructing a new one. They are about creating the preconditions for radical innovation and profound impact. They may appear disordered, they may seem unhealthy to an external observer, but they are hyper-specific to the individual and the unique challenge they confront. They are about enabling the extraordinary, not merely augmenting the ordinary. And how does the pursuit of commonly prescribed virtuous habits potentially impede the identification and cultivation of a truly contrarian idea? It is a matter of opportunity cost and cognitive framing. When rigidly adhering to a schedule, one may miss spontaneous moments of inspiration. When prioritizing the maintenance of a perfect work-life equilibrium, one may exhibit reluctance to commit the intense, all-consuming focus that a truly groundbreaking idea frequently necessitates. The virtuous habits can impose a mental straitjacket, inhibiting divergent thought because one is excessively preoccupied with ensuring the box is impeccably ordered. The energy and time expended on these often superficial optimizations could be redirected toward the far more arduous, yet infinitely more rewarding endeavor of profound contemplation, rigorous inquiry, and the challenging of one's own presuppositions. One becomes so engrossed in the process of achieving success that the purpose of success is forgotten. To accomplish something remarkable, something that distinguishes itself. The irony is that the very counsel designed to facilitate your success can, in fact, ensnare you in mediocrity. It is a comfortable trap, replete with well-intentioned platitudes and a sense of accomplishment derived from mere adherence to the rules. But for those who aspire to the 1% differential, the rules are intended to be interrogated, and the habits are to be forged in the crucible of a singular, audacious vision. The path to extraordinary outcomes is rarely discovered by marching in lockstep with the multitude. It is discovered by daring to deviate from the well-trodden path, armed with an idea that unsettles others and the conviction to see it through, irrespective of the unconventional nature of the journey. With a pathway to extraordinary success paved with flawlessly optimized morning routines and unflagging discipline, the summit would be a far more crowded expanse. The reality is that the 1% edge is not forged by conforming to the habits of the many, but by the courage to embrace unconventional methodologies in service of a rare, correct idea. But what does this courage truly manifest as, and how does one cultivate it in the face of doubt and opposition? 5. The hidden costs of success. We chase success, do we not? We devour the self-help tomes, not in agreement with the pronouncements of gurus, and meticulously chart our objectives. We operate under the comforting illusion that adherence to the well-trodden path will inevitably yield its promised rewards. But what if the true prize, the kind that elevates one to the rarefied strata of the top 1%, lies not on those congested thoroughfares, but is instead secreted away down a neglected track, a route most would shy from, deeming it too arduous, too fraught with uncertainty, too divergent? It is in these uncharted territories that the 1% edge truly resides, and its acquisition carries a price tag that the majority of motivational literature conveniently omits. Let us then confront the hidden expenditures associated with this elevated form of achievement. It transcends mere augmentation of hours worked or a marginal increase in acumen. It necessitates a fundamental recalibration of one's relationship with the world and invariably with the individuals who inhabit it. Foremost among the tolls exacted is social estrangement and a profound sense of being adrift in a sea of incomprehension. Contemplate this. When one embarks upon the pursuit of something truly audacious, something that stands in stark opposition to prevailing currents, one inherently separates from the collective. I recall vividly the decision to relinquish a secure, respectable position, the sort that elicits pride from one's progenitors, to forge an enterprise in the digital realm. My companions regarded me with an expression that suggested a fracturing of sanity. "You're abandoning it? Or that?" They would inquire, their tones imbued with a disconcerting blend of apprehension and thinly veiled censure. My parents, while outwardly decorous, conveyed their disquiet through a cascade of worried glances. This phenomenon extends beyond a mere scattering of raised eyebrows. As one ascends, particularly when success is predicated on a concept that eludes general comprehension, this disconnect can metastasize into an unbridgeable chasm. Old acquaintances may find it increasingly difficult to resonate with your emergent reality. Their concerns might revolve around weekend itineraries or the machinations of office politics, while yours are occupied with the scaling of a global enterprise or the navigation of a nascent market. One can begin to feel like an anomaly within the fabric of one's own existence. While they may covet your accomplishments, they rarely comprehend the arduous journey, the nocturnal vigils, the sheer intellectual contortions required to maintain a vanguard position. This deficit of affirmation from one's nearest and dearest can become an onerous burden, a persistent reminder that while triumphant in one sphere, one may be forfeiting connection in another. It is a solitary perch, this summit, and the air is indeed thin. Then there exists the rather discomfiting verity that success acts as an amplifier of one's inherent disposition. It is akin to augmenting the volume of one's entire personality. If one is predisposed to optimism and a relentless drive, success can transmute them into an indomitable force of positive momentum. Conversely, if one harbors a proclivity for impatience, anxiety, or even a touch of hubris, success does not effect a miraculous amelioration, it injects a potent stimulant into these existing traits. Consider those individuals who attain truly extraordinary outcomes. They are seldom characterized by a placid temperament or an unwavering equilibrium. They are frequently intense, driven, and at times, frankly, challenging. When they achieve significant breakthroughs, these qualities do not recede, they become more pronounced. That impatience might metamorphose into a ruthless efficiency, or it could manifest as a perpetual source of friction with any who cannot match their pace. The drive that propelled them forward can morph into an all-consuming obsession, leaving scant room for other facets of life. This amplification is a double-edged instrument. It empowers them to transcend limitations and achieve the seemingly impossible, but it also means their internal struggles, their inherent imperfections become magnified and more formidable to manage. Success does not forge a new individual, it intensifies the existing one, and this can prove a costly, demanding existence, both for oneself and for those in one's orbit. It elevates the significance of internal conflicts as the stakes become immeasurably higher. This leads us to the formidable weight of responsibility and the clandestine pressures that accompany a position within the upper echelons. The aspiration for success for most is predicated on the imagined acquisition of freedom and ease. They envision themselves reclining on a sun-drenched beach, having definitively arrived. For those who attain the 1% edge, however, the reality often presents a stark antithesis. The higher one ascends, the more numerous become the individuals reliant upon them. One's decisions ripple beyond the personal, impacting employees, clientele, investors, and at times, entire industrial sectors. This mantle of accountability is unyielding. It dictates that every choice carries profound ramifications. There is no latitude for casual missteps. One operates with a perpetual awareness of potential repercussions, not from fear, but from a profound comprehension of the stakes involved. The imperative to innovate, to maintain a leading edge, to preserve that contrarian advantage, is immense. It transcends the mere enjoyment of one's achievements. It represents an unwavering commitment to the foundational vision that facilitated their attainment. The psychological and emotional toll of this is frequently invisible to external observers. They perceive the success, the accolades, the affluence, but they remain oblivious to the sleepless nights spent grappling with intricate challenges, the unceasing vigilance required to safeguard one's creations, or the sheer cognitive exertion demanded to lead and innovate at such a rarefied level. It is a perpetual skirmish, and the arena for this conflict is predominantly within the confines of one's own mind. Moreover, the attainment of this caliber of success frequently necessitates the renunciation of conventional gratifications and societal norms. The popular depiction of a successful entrepreneur is often a caricature, a figure perpetually engaged in labor, subsisting on caffeine and eschewing repose. While this is an exaggeration, it contains a kernel of truth. To champion a contrarian concept that others dismiss as preposterous, one must cultivate a willingness to disregard what is deemed standard or prudent. This translates to a consistent refusal of numerous experiences that peers might readily embrace. Consider this: while others luxuriate in leisurely weekends, embark on impromptu excursions, or simply decompress after a conventional workday, one might be immersed in intensive research, refining a strategic framework, or collaborating with a team dispersed across multiple time zones. These unconventional work habits, as they might be characterized, are frequently born of necessity. The pursuit of a truly transformative idea cannot be neatly compartmentalized within the confines of a standard professional schedule. It demands an acute focus, a readiness to defer immediate satisfaction for a protracted, and often uncertain, future reward. This is not an act of self-flagellation. It is a deliberate allocation of finite resources, time, energy, mental capacity, towards the realization of something extraordinary. It signifies a conscious selection of the more arduous path, the one demanding discipline and sacrifice, over the facile, comfortable route that culminates in ordinary outcomes. Finally, there exists the often disconcerting reality of the illusory nature of validation. A significant number of individuals pursue success precisely because they crave recognition, esteem, and admiration. They yearn for affirmation that their efforts are commendable, that their intellect is sharp, that they have definitively succeeded. Yet, upon achieving that elite 1% status, particularly through unconventional means, the validation received can be surprisingly hollow or even entirely absent from those whose opinions hold the greatest weight. As previously noted, one's closest confidants and family members may fail to fully apprehend the magnitude of one's accomplishments, or they might harbor unspoken resentments. The broader populace may offer applause, but it is frequently for the outcome rather than the intricate, often solitary, process that engendered it. This external affirmation can feel superficial, as if onlookers are admiring the trophy without comprehending the blood, sweat, and tears invested in its acquisition. More insidiously, the validation that is forthcoming may be tinged with envy or a desire for association with success, rather than genuine understanding or respect for one's unique trajectory. This can engender a profound sense of isolation, prompting introspection on the very purpose of one's endeavors if the recognition received feels unearned or misconstrued. The genuine recompense, one comes to realize, cannot emanate from external sources. It must reside within an internal conviction, a profound belief in the rectitude of one's contrarian course, irrespective of external clamor. Therefore, it becomes evident that the trajectory toward the 1% edge is not paved with effortless triumphs and universal adulation. It is a path marked by profound personal sacrifices, social disconnects, and the persistent, amplified resonance of one's inner landscape. It necessitates a willingness to diverge, to endure misunderstanding, and to bear a weight of responsibility that most individuals cannot even conceive. These are not minor inconveniences. They are the fundamental costs of engaging in a different order of competition, a contest, with unwritten rules and rewards reserved for those audacious enough to forge their own path, armed with an idea that, against all prevailing logic, they hold to be unequivocally sound. While the allure of exceptional success is undeniable, a comprehensive understanding of its true essence mandates an acknowledgement of its profound, often isolating costs. Yet, these sacrifices are not the ultimate price. They are merely the admission fee to a more profound engagement. The true challenge, and the next frontier in comprehending exceptional success, lies not merely in enduring these costs, but in cultivating the resilient mindset and distinctive perspective that enables one not only to surmount them, but to flourish, ultimately reshaping the very contours of their chosen domain. Chapter 2. Redefining Success. 1. New definitions of personal success. Let us be candid. The world relentlessly bombards us with idealized visions of success. It is a ceaseless procession of gleaming automobiles, corner offices, impeccably curated vacations, and the self-congratulatory air of having arrived. This is the prevailing script, the one whispered in hushed boardrooms, trumpeted from self-help platforms, and emblazoned across every digital canvas. It is a narrative constructed upon the desires of the many, the ambitions of the masses, and, frankly, the ultimate attainment of a vanishing few. And herein lies its fundamental flaw for anyone aspiring to the 1% edge. Consider its common hallmarks. Success is typically framed as a climb up a predetermined ladder, an accumulation of wealth, a quest for status, and the outward appearance of a perfectly checked list of accomplishments. We are exhorted to rise before dawn, to meditate in solitude, to exercise rigorously, to subsist on nutrient-dense greens, to devour vast quantities of literature, and then to conquer the world before noon. We are fed a diet of discipline, hustle, and goal-setting as if these were the singular keys to unlocking extraordinary potential. Yet, these are the instruments for navigating the 99% game. They are designed for assimilation, for performance within established boundaries, for becoming a marginally improved, a slightly more polished iteration of the average. They are not engineered to facilitate a complete departure from the ordinary. This is precisely where the seductive illusion of the standard success narrative ensnares us. It is a fabricated ideal, a collection of external validations engineered to keep us perpetually running on a treadmill. Media, advertisers, and even well-intentioned acquaintances often propagate this image because it is familiar, it is safe, and it is comprehensible to them. They are peddling a dream that has already been sold to millions. And if you are pursuing that dream, you are not charting your own unique trajectory, you are traversing a well-worn path that terminates in a destination already densely populated by individuals who echo your thoughts, your feelings, and your very essence. This is the domain of the 99%, a realm where rewards are distributed broadly, but rarely ascend to the exceptional altitudes we are discussing. The issue is not inherently with the individual components. An early start can indeed be beneficial, and discipline has its rightful place, but rather with their presentation and their intended purpose. When these elements are presented as the exclusive ingredients for exceptional achievement, they become a diversion. They redirect your energies toward the mechanics of appearing successful, rather than the substance of achieving something truly remarkable. The outcome is an optimization for the semblance of success, not its profound reality. You are engaged in a game of imitation, and imitation, by its very nature, can never yield originality. It can never forge the 1% edge. This leads us to a critical juncture. Extraordinary success does not fundamentally alter who you are, it amplifies it. If you are pursuing a definition of success that is fundamentally at odds with your core disposition, you are orchestrating a magnified version of your own discontent. Envision an individual who thrives on deep, concentrated work and quiet introspection. If their envisioned success lies in a ceaseless round of networking events, public speaking engagements, and widespread, superficial acclaim, what transpires when they attain it? They do not find greater happiness. They become a more stressed, more anxious, more depleted version of themselves. The external validation they craved merely intensifies their internal dissonance. This is the essence of my assertion that success magnifies your existing emotional landscape. If you are inherently insecure and your definition of success is inextricably linked to perpetual external affirmation, achieving that affirmation will only intensify your desperate craving for the next dose. You will exist in a perpetual state of apprehension, terrified of forfeiting the approval that underpins your sense of self-worth. Conversely, if your definition of success is rooted in profound, intrinsic satisfaction in the mastery of a craft, in the resolution of an intricate problem, in the creation of something of genuine and enduring value, then achieving that will amplify your sense of fulfillment. The external accolades, should they materialize, become a bonus, not the bedrock. The 1% edge, by its very nature, is contrarian. It involves identifying an idea that eludes or is dismissed by the majority, holding steadfast to it when others waver, and then transforming it into a significant reality. And if your idea is contrarian, your path to success and your definition of what that success entails will almost certainly be contrarian as well. This is a pivotal realization. You cannot subscribe to the crowd's definition of success if you are embarking on a journey that deliberately diverges from the collective. If your concept stands against the prevailing current, your success will manifest differently. It may involve finding profound contentment in deep mastery, sought after by a discerning few, rather than broad, superficial recognition from the masses. Consider the genesis of a work like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a FCK. By conventional self-help standards, its title alone was an affront. Popular wisdom advocated for unwavering positivity, relentless striving, and the ubiquitous pursuit of happiness. This book, however, proposed an alternative, embracing struggle, acknowledging limitations, and deliberately choosing what truly holds significance. Its success was not measured by its adherence to the established self-help paradigm. It was achieved precisely because it defied that paradigm. The definition of success for that book and its creator was not about fulfilling a checklist of conventional wisdom, but about resonating with a deep, often unspoken, truth that the mainstream was overlooking. It was a triumph defined by its unconventionality and its underlying veracity. This lies at the core of it all. Contrarian success is inherently personal and unconventional. It is not about conforming to a pre-existing mold, it is about shattering it and forging your own. If you aspire to the 1% edge, your definition of success must mirror the unique character of your contrarian pursuit. It might involve finding fulfillment in the quiet satisfaction of unraveling a puzzle that no one else could decipher, or in building an enterprise that serves a niche market with such unparalleled excellence that it becomes indispensable, even if it never garners widespread headlines. It means prioritizing the depth of your impact over the breadth of your recognition. It means accepting that what success looks like for you will likely appear alien, even perplexing, to those still adhering to the 99% rules. This brings us to the fundamental inquiry: why are you pursuing success? This is where we must delve beneath the superficial desires for wealth or fame and unearth the true engine of motivation. A A robust definition of personal success is not propelled by extrinsic motivators, the applause, the accolades, the bank balance. Those are often byproducts, pleasant ancillary effects of achieving something truly meaningful. The genuine engine, the one that powers extraordinary outcomes, is intrinsic motivation. It is the inherent satisfaction derived from the pursuit itself. It is the joy of solving a complex problem, the profound fulfillment of creating something of lasting value, or the simple, deep pleasure of mastering a skill. For the 1% edge, the why is almost invariably an internal conviction. It is a belief in the validity and significance of your contrarian idea, a drive to see it realized, irrespective of whether the world immediately comprehends or applauds it. It is about the deep-seated imperative to prove your idea correct, not to prove yourself right in the eyes of others. When your motivation is intrinsic, you are insulated from the capricious nature of external validation. You are driven by something far more potent and sustainable. You are driven by the idea itself and your unwavering commitment to its truth. So, what are the specific societal success metrics that are most pervasive and demonstrably insufficient for achieving extraordinary results? Let us dissect them. First, there is the obsession with wealth accumulation beyond a certain threshold of comfort and security. While financial independence is indeed important, the relentless pursuit of ever greater riches for its own sake beyond what is requisite for security, impact, and freedom becomes a distraction. It shifts the focus from value creation to value extraction, from innovation to the optimization of existing revenue streams. The 1% edge is frequently about generating immense value, with wealth serving as a consequence, not the primary objective. To chase wealth as the definition of success is to risk overlooking opportunities for deeper impact. Then there is the fixation on public recognition and fame. The yearning to be known, admired, and perpetually in the spotlight is a potent siren song, yet it is also a gilded cage. For many who attain true outlier success, fame is a byproduct they often tolerate rather than actively seek. Their focus remains fixed on the work, the idea, the impact. When success is quantified by likes, shares, or media mentions, it becomes fragile and beholden to external forces. It is the disparity between constructing a robust, enduring edifice and erecting a sandcastle perpetually battered by the tides of public sentiment. The contrarian thinker often finds their greatest satisfaction in the substance of their endeavors, not the superficiality of applause. Job titles and hierarchical status represent another illusion. The ascent of the corporate ladder, the pursuit of prestigious designations, is a game orchestrated for the 99%. It is about fitting within a preordained structure, adhering to established protocols, and garnering a specific level of approval within that system. Extraordinary success, particularly of the contrarian variety, frequently entails disrupting or even dismantling existing structures, not ascending them. Steve Jobs was not defined by a corporate title. He was defined by his vision and his relentless pursuit of it, even when it meant clashing with the established order. His triumph lay in creating something entirely novel, not in conforming to an existing hierarchy. Finally, the hustle culture ethos, the glorification of overwork, sleep deprivation, and perpetual grind is a particularly insidious metric. It is often presented as a badge of honor, a testament to dedication. Yet true, sustainable, extraordinary success is rarely achieved through brute force and exhaustion. It is born of intelligent, focused, and often unconventional effort. The 1% edge is founded upon the correctness of an idea and its massive execution, not necessarily on the sheer volume of hours logged. Burnout is not an indicator of success. It is a signal of an unsustainable approach. Defining success by the minimal amount of sleep one obtains is a recipe for mediocrity, not for the 1% edge. How does the inherent nature of a contrarian idea necessitate a personal definition of success that will likely diverge from mainstream expectations? This is where the true challenge arises. A contrarian idea, by its very definition, is one that opposes the popular or anticipated viewpoint. It is an idea that most individuals are either unwilling or unable to conceive of, or worse, actively dismiss. If you are genuinely pursuing such an idea, you are inherently operating outside the mainstream. You are placing a wager on something that the majority does not endorse. Because your idea is distinct, the trajectory you follow to bring it to fruition will also be distinct. You cannot adhere to the conventional playbook if your starting point is unconventional. This implies that the challenges you encounter will be unique, the obstacles you surmount will be unforeseen, and the solutions you devise will be original. Consequently, the very experience of achieving success will be different. It will not mirror the success narratives you encounter in popular media. It will not be celebrated in the same manner. Consider this. If your contrarian idea pertains to a novel method of connecting people, a revolutionary approach to energy, or a divergent understanding of human psychology, the metrics of success will naturally shift. Success might be gauged by the depth of its impact on a specific community, rather than by mass market penetration. It might be measured by the scientific validation of your theory, even if it takes years for the public to grasp its significance. It might be determined by the profound loyalty of a niche customer base that truly comprehends the value you deliver. This divergence is not a flaw, it is an intrinsic characteristic. It is the natural consequence of daring to think differently. If you are genuinely committed to a contrarian idea, you must also be prepared for a contrarian definition of success. This demands a robust internal compass, a deep-seated faith in your own judgment, and a willingness to embrace an outcome that may be misunderstood or undervalued by the masses. Those who attain the 1% edge are not vying for popularity, they are striving to validate their idea, and in doing so, they redefine what success means for themselves, often in ways that eventually redefine it for others. Their success stands as a testament to their conviction, not their conformity. Ultimately, the most potent definitions of personal success are those that are profoundly personal. 2. Finding true motivation. Most people pursue success as a dog pursues a speeding automobile. They bark, they yap, they sprint with all their might, but when they finally attain it, they stand bewildered, unsure of what to do with their prize. Their elation stems merely from the act of capture. This is the fundamental delusion underpinning most notions of motivation. They chase the wrong quarry for the most superficial of reasons. They are exhorted to set goals, to cultivate discipline, to visualize victory. And for a time, this may yield a semblance of progress. A minor achievement, a lukewarm endorsement, a fleeting sense of accomplishment. But this is not our aim. We are not concerned with the masses, the 99%. We are here for the select few, the 1%. And the 1%? Their impetus is forged from more resilient materials. Consider the common discourse surrounding motivation. It invariably centers on externalities, the glint of the prize, the allure of reward, the opinions of others. One hears pronouncements such as, "I am driven by financial gain," or "my ambition is fame," or "I must silence my detractors." These are perfectly adequate motivators for ascending the well-trodden paths of conventional achievement, for securing a respectable position, perhaps a promotion, a life of material comfort. They are akin to the disposable batteries powering a child's toy for a brief interlude. But for those who aspire to construct a vessel capable of traversing the cosmos, such power sources are woefully insufficient. They will falter at the precipice of ambition. Why do these commonplace drivers falter when one aims for the truly exceptional, the path less traveled? Because the very essence of a contrarian proposition is its initial alienation, its unpopularity, its inherent solitude. If your sole impetus is wealth, and your unconventional idea fails to generate immediate riches, you will abandon it. If fame is your pursuit, and your concept is so radical that it invites derision, you will falter. If your objective is to vindicate your doubters, their clamor can easily drown out your inner resolve. These external stimuli are but flimsy bulwarks against a tempest. They are designed for a world that celebrates conformity, not disruptive innovation. The advantage of the 1%, the catalyst for truly outlier achievements, demands a deeper wellspring. It requires an internal engine that does not sputter when the accolades cease or when the critics gather. This is where contrarian success distinguishes itself profoundly. It is not about assimilation, It is about divergence. And divergence, particularly when charting an uncharted course, necessitates a reservoir of motivation that flows from within. It is the chasm between the casual jogger seeking fitness and the ultramarathoner engaged in a profound test of will. The former may cease when the going gets arduous. The latter possesses a deeper, more personal imperative to persevere through suffering. So, what constitutes this intrinsic fuel? It is your why. And I speak not of the superficial rationale you might offer acquaintances. I refer to the profound, visceral imperative that occupies your thoughts, not with anxiety, but with exhilarating anticipation. The reason that compels you to endure skepticism, setbacks, and the sheer arduousness of manifesting a truly original concept. This is precisely what conventional wisdom overlooks. It is preoccupied with task lists and mental imagery of triumph. It neglects to interrogate the fundamental question, why are you pursuing this particular success in the first place? Permit me to recount my own trajectory. In my nascent stages, I mirrored the prevailing sentiment. I equated success with quantifiable metrics, with coveted recognition. I was ensnared by the allure of the superficial. I harbored an unconventional notion, a rather peculiar one, regarding a fundamental flaw within a particular industry. The consensus deemed me misguided. That is not how it is done, they declared. You are destined to fail. And, I confess, their pronouncements held sway for a period. I attempted to refine my concept, to render it more palatable, more conventional. My motivation was a potent cocktail of apprehension and the faint hope of external validation. It was an exhausting endeavor. I felt as though I were perpetually battling an undertow of doubt, both from external sources and, more critically, from within myself. Then arrived a pivotal juncture, a moment of profound decision. I was scrutinizing my spreadsheets, my meticulously constructed, conventional strategy, and I felt an utter void, an absolute absence of resonance. It was all predicated on achieving arbitrary targets. The original idea, the one that had initially ignited a spark within me, had been so diluted as to be unrecognizable. I apprehended that if I were to dedicate the prodigious hours, the sacrifices, the sheer mental fortitude that this distinctly contrarian path demanded, it could not be for the approbation of those who failed to grasp its essence. It could not be for a numerical entry on a bank statement that felt devoid of meaning. It had to be for something more profound. My why transcended the pursuit of wealth or renown. It resided in the unadulterated, self-evident correctness of the idea itself. I perceived a fundamental truth that eluded others, and the imperative to validate that truth, to construct something that unequivocally demonstrated its power, became my singular driving force. It was the intellectual exhilaration of being right when the world was demonstrably wrong. It was the profound satisfaction of witnessing a complex system coalesce into coherence through a perspective that defied convention. This was not about external affirmation, it was about internal conviction. It was about the deep, almost defiant, joy of creation and its subsequent vindication. This embodies the core of intrinsic motivation for contrarian success. It is not the pursuit of a reward, it is the profound valuation of the endeavor itself and the inherent truth or impact of the concept being pursued. It is the discovery of that deep, personal significance that renders the struggle not just bearable, but profoundly worthwhile. It is the scientist dedicating decades to the laboratory, not for the Nobel Prize, but for the insatiable, burning curiosity, to unravel a fundamental aspect of the cosmos. It is the artist toiling in obscurity for years, not for gallery exhibitions, but because the act of creation is an intrinsic compulsion, a means of comprehending existence. Their eventual success is a mere byproduct of this internal conflagration, not its source. Consider a figure such as Nikola Tesla. He was not propelled by the desire for preeminence in wealth or ubiquity of recognition. He was animated by a prescient vision of the future, by an almost spiritual conviction in the transformative potential of alternating current. He pursued this concept with an unyielding ardor, often to his own financial detriment and social estrangement. The world struggled to comprehend him. Edison, the darling of the establishment, actively obstructed his progress. Yet, Tesla's motivation was impervious to their approval or their understanding. It was rooted in his profound belief in the power and promise of his ideas. His prescience regarding AC, coupled with his unwavering resolve, enabled him to execute on a scale that reshaped the world. Even if he did not accrue all the conventional accolades, his impetus was the idea itself and the profound impact he intuitively understood it could wield. This brings us to a critical realization: success does not transform you, it magnifies you. If your foundation is constructed upon ephemeral, external motivators, significant achievement will merely amplify your existing tendencies towards seeking approval or accumulating wealth. This can result in a hollow victory or worse, a gilded cage. You may find yourself adorned with all the outward trappings of success, yet experiencing a profound sense of emptiness, unfulfillment, or even alienation from your true self. This is why comprehending your authentic motivation is paramount. It ensures that the amplified version of you is one you genuinely wish to embody. If your core drive is the pursuit of truth, the impact of your insights, or the pure exhilaration of creation, then success will amplify these qualities, rendering you a more impactful, more fulfilled, and ultimately, a more genuinely successful individual. The framework of contrarian success rests upon the premise that one must be correct in one's contrarian assertion. This is not a mere technicality, it is intrinsically linked to motivation. To deviate from the norm, to confront opposition, and to dedicate one's life to an unconventional pursuit requires an almost unassailable belief in its inherent validity. This conviction is not born of wishful thinking, it is forged through rigorous analysis, intuitive insight, and a relentless quest for understanding. This certainty, this internal knowing, constitutes a formidable form of motivation. It is less about hoping for vindication and more about a deep, ingrained assurance that you are correct, even if the world has yet to catch up. This certainty is the bedrock upon which the monumental execution demanded by contrarian success is built. When one is genuinely convinced of the validity and potential of an idea, the arduous work is not shunned, it is embraced. Creative solutions are unearthed. Obstacles are surmounted. There is no need for constant external validation or financial incentives to sustain momentum. The work itself, fueled by conviction, becomes its own reward. It forms a self-sustaining cycle. Belief in the idea propels execution, and successful execution, in turn, reinforces that belief. So, how does one unearth this authentic motivation? It necessitates introspection, an unflinching honesty with oneself, and a commitment to looking beyond facile explanations. Begin by posing the question: if I possessed limitless resources and were entirely unobserved and unjudged, how would I choose to spend my time? What challenges genuinely vex me? What concepts ignite such fervor that they consume my thoughts? What kind of impact do I aspire to make, not on others' perceptions of me, but on the world itself? Do not settle for the first facile answer. Delve deeper. If your response is money, inquire further. Why do you desire wealth? Is it for security? Material possessions? Or is it to finance a grander vision, a more significant undertaking that truly resonates with you? If your answer is freedom, what does that freedom enable you to accomplish? Is it liberation from a superior, or the liberty to pursue a passion that conventional life precludes? This process of excavating your true why is not a singular event. It is an ongoing dialogue with yourself. It involves continuous self-assessment to ensure your actions remain aligned with your deepest values and aspirations. For those embarking on the path of contrarian success, this internal congruence is not a luxury. It is an absolute imperative. It is the invisible architecture that underpins the immense effort required to bring groundbreaking ideas to fruition. If the what of contrarian success is the idea, and the how is prodigious execution, then the why, your authentic, intrinsic motivation, is the unwavering engine that propels it all. Without this deeply ingrained internal drive, the pursuit of extraordinary outcomes will inevitably falter, leaving you no closer to the 1% than when you began. But once this core is unearthed, the path to redefining your own success becomes not merely possible, but an inevitability. 3. balancing social and personal goals. The world adores equilibrium. We are perpetually inundated with counsel on harmonizing vocation and leisure, kinship and companionship, self-improvement and societal duties. This is presented as the ultimate prize, the secret to felicity and a life of complete fulfillment. And for the vast majority, those who navigate the predictable currents of common sense, this is likely accurate. They aspire to steady advancement, a life of comfort, and a generally agreeable social calendar. This is the path of the 99%. But you are not here for the 99%. You are here for the 1% advantage, the kind of triumph that leaves observers bewildered, pondering, how did they accomplish that? And the stark, unvarnished truth is this: to attain something genuinely extraordinary, something that defies convention and sets you apart, almost invariably demands that you unbalance your life, at least for a considerable duration. This is not about an ineptitude for balance. It is about recognizing that the quest for outlier achievements necessitates outlier exertion, and that exertion seldom fits neatly into a perfectly compartmentalized schedule. Consider it. If you are pursuing an idea that most fail to grasp, an idea that runs counter to prevailing beliefs, you will require an immense expenditure of time and mental fortitude simply to begin validating your own perspective. This is not about gratuitous workaholism. It is about dedicating every fiber of your being to a vision that the world has not yet apprehended. It implies late nights, early mornings, foregone lunches, and weekends consumed by profound contemplation or relentless execution. It means declining invitations to revelries, dinners, and casual gatherings, for your mind is engaged in a struggle with a problem that could redefine an industry, or a work of art capable of stirring millions, or a scientific revelation that could alter our comprehension of the cosmos. This is not a deficit of discipline, as the self-help evangelists would have you believe. It is a strategic, often severe, prioritization. When you endeavor to construct that which has never been built, that which the market or society has not even conceived, you cannot afford to be diverted by the quotidian demands that occupy most individuals. You are not merely ascending a ladder, you are hewing a novel ascent up a mountain unseen by others. This requires a degree of focus that, by its very nature, draws you away from other facets of your existence. It is a transient imbalance, to be sure, but an indispensable one if you are serious about achieving results that place you in the uppermost percentile. Let us be candid. Most counsel on balance is fashioned for those seeking to optimize their existing, relatively predictable lives. It is concerned with ensuring you do not succumb to exhaustion while pursuing incremental advancements. But when you are aiming for a contrarian success, you are not pursuing incremental advancements. You are aiming for a quantum leap, a paradigm shift. And leaps do not occur when you are meticulously distributing your energy equally across all fronts. They materialize when you are willing to channel nearly all your energy into that single, audacious leap. Reflect upon the narrative of Elias Vance, a name absent from many business curricula, yet one that resonates profoundly within specific circles. Elias was convinced, in the nascent stages of the Internet, that the future of information lay not in searchable databases, but in intelligent, context-aware systems capable of anticipating your needs before you articulated them. All around him, from his technically adept companions to his mentors, he was perceived as chasing a chimera. Simply construct a superior search engine, they would advise. That is where the capital resides. That is what people desire. But Elias perceived something distinct. He envisioned a world where technology understood us, rather than the reverse. To engineer this predictive engine, Elias needed to master disciplines that were, at the time, barely interconnected: nascent artificial intelligence, linguistics, and intricate network theory. He spent 5 years inhabiting a minuscule apartment, subsisting on instant noodles and brewed coffee, rarely glimpsing daylight, let alone the faces of friends. His social calendar devolved into a spectral realm. Birthdays, holidays, informal rendezvous, all passed him by, or he would receive a call from a perplexed friend inquiring if he was even still among the living. His family harbored anxieties. His girlfriend, bless her heart, attempted to comprehend, but ultimately, the sheer, unyielding focus of his pursuit became insurmountable. He was not merely occupied, he was consumed. He had no alternative. The idea was too delicate, too unconventional, to be nurtured with anything less than his absolute attention. He was not exhibiting poor social acumen, he was making a deliberate, arduous choice to prioritize the potential of his contrarian concept over the comforts of his present social reality. The balance he sought was not between work and life, but between the immediate gratification of connection and the profound, uncertain promise of a future he was constructing from inception. This brings us to another sobering verity, the social exigency of being correctly contrarian. When you dare to embrace a belief that the vast majority dismisses, you are not merely opposing an idea, you are contending with the collective solace and certitude of your social cohort. Your friends, your family, your colleagues, they operate within established paradigms. Their counsel, however benevolent, emanates from a desire for your safety, your normalcy, your conformity to their own mold. When you embark on a trajectory that appears fundamentally divergent, one that entails risks they cannot fathom and potential rewards they cannot envision, they will frequently respond with bewilderment, apprehension, or even outright skepticism. "Are you certain about this, Alex?" they might inquire, their brows furrowed with concern, referring to an undertaking that feels like a certainty to you. It simply appears so perilous. Perhaps you ought to adhere to the proven. Or, why are you dedicating all your time to that obscure project? You could be out enjoying yourself, reveling in pleasure. They perceive your devotion as an anomaly, your focus as an obsession, and your unconventional path as a potential catastrophe. This is where internal validation assumes paramount importance. If your contrarian concept is genuinely sound, if you have diligently conducted your research, if you possess that intuitive certainty, corroborated by a rigorous thought, that this is the endeavor, then you must learn to disregard the cacophony. Their skepticism is not an indicator of your error, it is frequently a signal that you are correct in your divergence. It is an affirmation that you are venturing into territory where most are unwilling or unable to follow. The emotional toll of this can be immense. It can feel isolating, solitary, and profoundly vexing to have your vision perpetually challenged by those closest to you. You may begin to doubt yourself, not because your idea is flawed, but because the incessant barrage of doubt from your social circle erodes your self-assurance. This is why comprehending and redefining your personal goals is so critical. For most individuals, personal objectives revolve around immediate gratifications, comfort, and social amity. A vacation, a new automobile, a promotion that bestows a more prestigious title and a larger office, a stable romantic partnership, a comfortable retirement. These are perfectly legitimate aspirations for 99% of the populace. But for an individual pursuing contrarian success, the definition of personal fulfillment frequently undergoes a dramatic metamorphosis. Your personal goals may transmute from the pursuit of external affirmation to the discovery of profound contentment within the process itself. The exhilaration of resolving a complex conundrum, the quiet joy of mastering an arduous skill, the profound sense of purpose, derived from constructing something that could genuinely influence the world, these become your new benchmarks for personal achievement. The personal goal is not a weekend excursion. It is the breakthrough that occurs at 3 a.m. after weeks of frustration. It is not a promotion. It is the instant you realize your unconventional methodology has, in fact, succeeded, and succeeded spectacularly. Consider a composer like Beethoven. In his later years, as his deafness intensified, his symphonies grew more intricate, more demanding, and more personal than anything that had preceded them. He was pushing the frontiers of musical expression, often to the bewilderment of his contemporaries. His personal goal was not to compose music that was easily palatable or universally embraced in the moment. His personal goal was to translate the extraordinary, often tumultuous, inner world of his genius into sound, irrespective of immediate reception. The fulfillment stemmed from the act of creation, from the pursuit of his singular artistic vision, a vision that was profoundly contrarian for its era. His personal triumph resided in achieving that artistic verity, not in placating the masses. This brings us to a pivotal juncture, one frequently overlooked in the clamor for accomplishment, success, particularly the outlier variety we are discussing, does not merely alter your external circumstances, it amplifies who you inherently are. It is akin to increasing the volume on your core persona. If you are naturally introverted, extreme success may deepen your inclination for solitude, rendering you even more discerning about whom you admit into your inner circle. You will not suddenly crave incessant social interaction. Rather, you will likely seek fewer, yet more profound, connections that genuinely comprehend your journey. Conversely, if you are an individual who thrives on connection and collaboration, extreme success may not compel you to withdraw. Instead, it might amplify your desire for deeper, more meaningful relationships. You will wish to share your journey with individuals who not only grasp your vision, but can also genuinely celebrate your victories and sustain you through the inevitable trials. Your social circles will likely undergo a transformation. You may find yourself drawn to other individuals who are also challenging boundaries, who speak your idiom of unconventional ambition. A technological innovator might discover their most trusted confidants among fellow entrepreneurs who have navigated similar turbulent waters. The artist might seek out patrons who appreciate the depth of their vision, or fellow creatives who understand the solitary struggle. This is not about abandoning your social imperatives. It is about ensuring those imperatives are met in a manner that is authentic to you and conducive to your extraordinary pursuit. It is about recognizing that the balance you require may appear vastly different from the balance that everyone else is striving to achieve. So, how do you navigate this terrain? How do you preserve your sanity and your connections when your path is so divergent? It is not about discovering a static equilibrium, a flawless 50-50 division. It is about strategic re-engagement and integration. It is about understanding that your life is not a fixed pie chart where you must allocate equal portions to everything. It is a dynamic ecosystem. This necessitates making deliberate choices about when to intensify your focus and when to re-establish connections. There will be periods of profound immersion during which you must decline almost everything else. And then there will be times when you must step back, to recuperate, to nurture your relationships, and to remind yourself why you embarked on this endeavor in the first place. This is not about reverting to the old normal you abandoned. It is about constructing a new, sustainable mode of existence that accommodates the demands of exceptional achievement. For Elias Vance, after nearly 5 years of near-total isolation, he reached a point where his predictive engine exhibited remarkable promise. He possessed the foundational technology, the proof of concept. It was then that he consciously elected to re-engage. He did not suddenly commence attending every social gathering, but he did extend invitations to a select few close friends and family members. He welcomed them, not to inundate them with technical jargon, but to convey the impact of his work. He demonstrated how his system could assist a small business proprietor in anticipating customer needs, or how it could aid a physician in foreseeing a patient's condition. He rebuilt those connections, not by forsaking his vision, but by discovering avenues to integrate it into his personal relationships, illustrating that his pursuit was not motivated by self-serving ambition, but by the creation of something of value. He learned to cultivate a support network that understood and respected his contrarian path, and in doing so, discovered a novel form of balance that fueled his ongoing innovation. This leads us to the fundamental inquiries that lie at the core of this pursuit. If your definition of success is so deeply personal, so frequently at odds with the prevailing global perspective, how do you ensure that your motivations are genuinely your own and not merely a reaction against the expectations of others? How do you forge a life where the intense focus required for extraordinary outcomes does not precipitate complete isolation, but rather a more profound, more authentic connection with yourself and with a select few who truly comprehend your journey? The 1%. Conclusion: we have ventured beyond the well-trodden paths, the cacophony of crowded forums, and the ceaseless deluge of hacks that promise the impossible and deliver only the mundane. If this book has found its way into your hands, it is likely because you have felt that persistent disconnect. That quiet skepticism that the prevailing wisdom, so vociferously proclaimed, falls short of the truly exceptional. The seductive whisper of discipline, the comforting drone of goal setting, the ubiquitous morning ritual. These are the lullabies sung to the masses, designed to foster comfort and productivity, but ultimately to confine them within the predictable boundaries of the 99%. They are instruments of incremental improvement, not catalysts for seismic transformation. The truth is, the trajectory toward the extraordinary is seldom paved with the same cobblestones as the path to the ordinary. The hacks that saturate our digital feeds are crafted for those who aspire to be better versions of themselves within the existing framework, not for those who dare to forge a new one. The true differentiator, the secret alchemy of the 1%, resides not in the relentless pursuit of common wisdom, but in the audacious embrace of contrarian success, a potent fusion of a rare insight, its profound correctness, and its unwavering execution. This is not about mere divergence for the sake of distinction. It is about a specific, strategic departure that most individuals are too timid, too complacent, or too unobservant to even contemplate. It commences with a contrarian idea, a conviction that defies conventional wisdom, a perspective that most would readily dismiss as folly. It is the initial spark that ignites the engine of the extraordinary, born from a profound willingness to question the unquestionable. Consider this: if an idea enjoys widespread popularity, it has already been considered by thousands, if not millions. The truly groundbreaking insights are often those that, at first glance, feel incorrect, or at the very least, peculiar. Yet, an idea, however audacious, remains but a whisper in the wind without its indispensable counterpart, correctness. This is where true rarity is found. The 1% are not simply contrarian, they are correctly contrarian. They possess an almost uncanny capacity to discern the signal amidst the noise, to perceive the future while others are blinded by the present. The vast majority of contrarian notions falter because they are fundamentally flawed. They spring from ego, from a desire to be distinct rather than from genuine insight. The chasm between a contrarian who fails and one who achieves exceptional success is precisely this. The latter is right. In their unconventional gamble, they have engaged in deep contemplation, rigorous analysis, or experienced an intuitive leap that eludes others, and their correctness proves paramount. And then there is execution, not the frenetic, unfocused scramble of the masses, but a concentrated, massive deployment of resources and will, meticulously designed to manifest that correct contrarian vision. It is the driving force that propels the idea from abstract concept to world-altering reality. Without this monumental execution, even the most brilliant and correct contrarian idea remains precisely that, an idea. It is the distinction between comprehending the mechanics of rocket construction and actually assembling and launching one. Execution demands grit, unwavering determination, and an unshakable commitment. It is the relentless push that transforms a unique insight into a tangible, transformative force. It is the difference between reading about a seminal book and authoring it. This path is not for the faint-hearted. It frequently necessitates solitary journeys, confronting skepticism, and enduring the sting of misunderstanding. For the contrarian, success does not always elicit universal acclamation. It can, for better or worse, amplify existing truths. I have personally witnessed the perplexed glances from friends and family when I embarked upon a course that seemed illogical by conventional standards. Their intentions were benevolent, offering the standard counsel, the secure routes. But the 1% edge is not discovered on secure routes. It is forged in the crucible of challenging the status quo, in the quiet assurance that arises from the knowledge that one perceives something others do not. The social toll of being different is palpable, yet the personal reward of realizing a singular vision is immeasurable. The fundamental question, however, remains: why do you seek this 1% edge? Is it for the ephemeral validation of the crowd, or for the profound fulfillment of bringing a unique vision to fruition? The true odyssey commences when you define your own success, independent of the prevailing narrative. It requires introspection, asking yourself, beyond the metrics of wealth or fame, What truly holds significance for you? What impact do you aspire to make? Your definition of success should be as contrarian as the ideas you pursue. It is a personal quest, not a popularity contest. The 1% edge is not an arcane formula bestowed from on high. It is a cultivated mindset, a courageous approach to the world. It is the willingness to venture into the uncharted, to place faith in your own discerning judgment, and to construct something extraordinary from the bedrock of a correctly identified contrarian idea. It demands courage, not merely to be different, but to be right when all others are mistaken. It necessitates a relentless pursuit of truth, even when that truth is unpopular. The world awaits the bold. Go forth and forge your edge.